Hi, it's Kim, and welcome to the channel today. You know, lately I've really gotten deeply into houseplants. Really am going crazy buying those, but I thought, why not put the two together? My love for the HYPERTUFA, let's just do those with houseplants. So what I've done is chosen a few of my smaller HYPERTUFA planters and brought them inside. They needed a little bit of a cleanup so that they'll be bug-free. I mean, a lot of I don't know, the little crawly roly-polies and things like that get in them. So they really need soaked and cleaned up before you can bring them inside. So I brought several of those smaller ones inside. You can see that floating perlite that gets on my nerves so bad. But I brought them in and put them into a container, and I kind of leave them under water for 2 or 3 days, and that's mostly to get rid of all the soil that's embedded in them, kind of give them a slight scrub and get them cleaned up so that they can adequately be used for an indoor plant, because I wouldn't want to bring any varmints or anything from outside, bring them inside. Now you can see the HYPERTUFA pot is darker when it's wet, so it does get quite a bit lighter when it's dry, and you can see that. Now there is a little bit of algae still growing on the sides of the pots, but I don't think that's going to hurt anything. In fact, I really like that look, especially if I should decide to grow some kind of mossy type plant like baby tears or something like that. Now this little tiny one was a Velveeta mold. That was one of my yogurt cup molds that I've already used in another video if you saw me plant my pileas. But the other one, if I'm not mistaken, that bigger one was a ice cream box, and so it has a nice little rim for it. But I think putting houseplants with HYPERTUFA is going to be a real success. I first thought I'd plant this particular plant in there, but I think it's too big. So we're going to choose another one in the film. So let's get right into it. Okay, this particular square HYPERTUFA pot is one that I have already. It's an older one that I've brought in. That's the one that I showed you being cleaned and everything. And what I think we're going to put into it is the blue chalk sticks. I think that looks like just about the right size for this one. And I know that's going to get very, very much taller and bigger. But I think that's going to be a really pretty arrangement. So I like that a lot. It's going to be nice. Okay, I'm getting ready to pot up my HYPERTUFA that we're going to try for indoor house plants. Got this one ready. It's cleaned, been outside for several years, but I am ready to use it for indoor house plant. Now I have mixed up my cactus soil, and I've also included some poultry grit. You can see poultry grit that I use. It is just some real fine ground granite, and I keep that in there. I kind of prefer it over the perlite because it doesn't float. It's a little more heavy but gives a lot of good drainage. And then my plant is going to be this chalk sticks that I got at my plant haul the other day. It's a really large one for only $5. I got that in New Lebanon, and that's going to go right down into this pot. I think that's really going to look good. So let me get busy and get that potted. Okay, now I've already prepped a little piece of screen. Just a little piece of vinyl screening to put over my hole. So right down in there. And then I'll mix up my soil. Okay, I'll just get a little scoop in there. And I may need to mix a little more just depending on how deeply the plant goes into this particular pot. Tray. Okay, I'll just ease this out. And you can see my roots. This one's pretty damp. I watered it, but it looks pretty good. I don't see any kind of problems with the roots. And it appears to be, I don't know, several plants in there. So let me set it inside. I think I like that as far as its height. I think that'll work. Okay. Get this all nice and full on the one side. Make sure I get all the air pockets out of it. And let me mix up just a little bit more soil. Okay, I'll add this to the mix. I think that looks pretty good. Okay, now let me tamp him down in there. It feels pretty strong. Now, let's see. Looks like a little drooper there. Did I break one? I don't know if I did or not. Hopefully I didn't. I think that looks pretty good. Looks about the right size. And I like that pretty well. I don't know if I broke one or that one's just like drooping just a little bit, but hopefully it's not broken. I think that looks pretty good. I really like these houseplants in HYPERTUFA. I am using an old makeup brush to clean up around the top of the HYPERTUFA dish. This works really well if you have one. Maybe you'll see a little bit of improvement since I have put the camera on a tripod this time. I finally rigged a tripod that I think may work, but we'll see when I go to try to edit. But I think that looks pretty good. Now I do want to top dress, so I will just put some of these little stones all around the top. I think that's going to look really good. me see how much more. A little bit right down in the center. There. That should work. I need some long tweezers. There. I think that's going to look really fine. Now, where will this one go? I think for now, I'm going to put it right over here next to the others. Now, how about that? I think that's going to look really good. Now, what do you think? Not too bad for a homemade planter. Not too bad at all. Now, the next one we're going to work with is this planter made from the mold of a little Velveeta cheese box. What do you think of that one? It's real narrow, so it's just going to be for some little starts. Again, this is a really old one. Been outside for years, but it's in real good shape. So that's what I'm going to plant up here. I'll need to cut me some little screen to put in the very bottom. I'm sure you can see the holes there. I just cut a narrow piece of the screening. And that will cover the hole. Oop, let me get it. It's a little bit twisted. There. Let's see how good you can see that. There we go. Now this is going to need just the minimum amount of soil. Now this particular little box does hold a lot more soil than you think it does. That little hole looks very narrow and not very deep, but it holds as much as one of those tiny little Dixie cup planters that we bring home the new tiny plants in. So I'm not going to feel bad about rooting some of these tiny small cuttings that I'm going to use this for, because I think that'll work out just fine. I'll just pack it in and make sure I can take full advantage. Sorry about that furnace noise, it just keeps kicking on. That looks pretty good. Now I'm going to go ahead and clean up the little planter with the makeup brush, and then what I'm going to plant in it is some little cuttings that I've rooted of Sedum Mackinac Ogon. It is a little sedum, a real delicate little sedum that is sort of a real bright, almost golden green during the growing season. And I had cut some of that off and I'm rooting it there. I had brought some in for the winter because I've not been successful in keeping it outside, even though it's labeled that it will survive in this zone. I've not been successful in keeping it alive in this zone, along with a lot of other plants we'll discuss later. But I have rooted this, and I think I've got some pretty successful little cuttings here that I'm planting in the little Velveeta loaf. I probably have about maybe 10 little cuttings, and it is kind of a palish, more gold color right now, but not the bright color that it'll be when it is in its prime growing season. But I'm just going to place those out. And again, that's Sedum Mackinac Ogon. I think I have a previous video of that where we got it at Meadowview Growers last year, and that'll show you how it looks when it grows on a regular basis. But I'll just stick those in here. Now I do think these particular plants have an advantage, especially these sedum, in my HYPERTUFA planters, because when I water these planters, you can see the moisture. It's reflected in the outside of these containers. When they get damp, of course they change color because that's their nature, basically the materials they're made out of. So when I water them or mist them, they do change color. I've got quite a few of them placed through there. And I'm just barely, they have the tiniest little roots on them. I'm just barely putting them across the top of the soil so that they can root in. Now this greener little tips that I'm putting in right now, that's a Pilea glauca. It's a tiny, it grows almost the same way, just kind of like a little flat mat that will cascade over the container. And I have had mine bloom in little tiny pinkish white flowers during the later part of the summer season. So hopefully I can get some going and get a lot of that in this little tiny planter. Now when they do get growing better, I'll probably separate them out individually and put them out in other planters. But I think this is going to be real nice. And I did put the name on it just a little bit previously in the video, so you can check that out. But we've got a pretty lot of them in there now. Let me see if I can get that focused. I think that looks pretty good. So the darker green is Pilea glauca, and that more golden green is the Sedum Mackinac Ogon. Now I want you to check out the color change when I do this spraying, because you can see the moisture as it soaks into the planter. Well, as usual, I have glitches when I'm recording, and I lost a portion of my audio, so I'm going to have to go back in and re-record over it. Sometimes that's better. But here I am putting the water on the little Velveeta loaf planter. You can see where it makes the particular HYPERTUFA change its color. It gets darker, and then you can kind of see the hydration in there. You can tell as it gets lighter that it's getting drier and drier. That little Pilea glauca is the real green portion of it that I've just made cuttings from, and then the Sedum Mackinac looks a little better. Now I will put this over with my other HYPERTUFA box that I've put over here, which is of course much larger. But right now, for some photos and for this video purposes, I'm going to set them right together so you can see them together. I think those blue chalk sticks look really nice. Got that little tiny bent branch that I crunched with my soil bucket, but hopefully that's going to spring up. And it did. On some later pictures, you'll see those over on the post. By the following morning, it had sprung up and was better. Now I'll probably change and put the Velveeta loaf dish to these areas in the shelves where the light source is a little bit closer. And there's the turkey baster that I water with. I think it holds amounts of water that are really perfect for watering these small planters, because you can see that you're putting a ½ ounce or an ounce of water on these particular planters, and that way you don't really overwater. And if I characterize myself, I'm an overwaterer. I really love to, go down and tend and hover over the plants and give them a little drink here and there. And you can tend to overwater if you do that too much. Now in the HYPERTUFA, where everything is breathable. The outside walls of this are real porous, so everything's breathable. If you're an overwaterer, that might work out best for you. So that little Velveeta dish I think will hold a lot of my smaller plants pretty well. I really need to do something about that mess of wires that are hanging, but we'll work on that. I've got a mountain of work to do down here, what with all these plants I'm bringing in. I am going to take that cactus that is in HYPERTUFA. I'm going to transplant it. It's got a lot of babies. I want to see if I can make it do better, because I don't think it's changed size in the several years that I've had it. Now, if you watched an earlier video where I did get baby tears from the garden center, and the garden center clerks gave me one of the little pots that was kind of dead. It was really either dried up or had gotten cold, and I brought it home, planted it, covered it up too much, and it molded. I came down one morning and I had the lid left on it, and it was all covered in mold. Well, I took that lid off and just quickly sprinkled it all with cinnamon, and believe it or not, it's coming through. The cinnamon seemed to kill all the mold. I left it away from the other plants for quite some time, but now I've got it up there getting as much light as possible, and I may be as successful to get a little bit of growth from that to transplant into another terrarium, which is what I'm hoping to do. A couple of my other plants, I probably made videos about those if you remember those. There's my pilea. They seem to be doing real well. The UFO plant or pancake plant, the pilea, pepperiimoids. I never can pronounce that correctly, but the one that I have planted in the HYPERTUFA, I like to just put a little bit of water on that just about every day to make sure that it stays fresh looking and hydrated. But the turkey baster works fine. I just have it sitting down inside these gallon water bottles that I save, and I'm able just to squirt a little on my plants here and there, and even reach down into some of my terrariums and highlight one of the plants that I really want to be hydrated. I think this looks real good. This one does have a drainage in it. I did drill holes, so don't worry that I don't have drainage in these, as I add a little bit of water daily. But I have more HYPERTUFA that I have made. It's in the leaching process right now, so I'll shortly have a video up with the planting of that, because I am going to put my aloe in that. I realize it's in bloom right now, but I don't mind. I can sacrifice the bloom for this time just to get it in its permanent pot. Aquarium's doing nicely. I did I collected some wood branches outside, but I'm going to do a video, I think, about how I treated my wood branches from outside. The orchid, I'm not sure about it. It's not doing well, but I'm trying my best. So I hope you've enjoyed the little adventure today. I do think houseplants and HYPERTUFA is going to be a marriage made in heaven.